And we're back. This is Friday, July, what is this, 21st, 2019. Happy Fridays with Fidelman. I'm Cheryl Fidelman, life coach, performance artist, and I train people how to heal trauma from their nervous system. And today's topic on Fridays with Fidelman is planning the future, which is a huge topic because the future is huge. So I'm going to cover some of it in the next few minutes. Planning your future, creating your future, thinking, discovering, exploring, coming up with what you want the rest of your life to look like, and how much of that, and you may already know what you want for the rest of your life, but I think it's important to notice how much of that plan or outlook is shaped by what has previously happened to you in your life. And how much of what has previously happened in your life is limiting what you want moving forward. And I think that trauma has a lot to do with that, because unhealed trauma sets our behavior and our moods and the way in which we relate. It sets it in a particular place, and the way in which we view ourselves as well. So if that trauma is not healed, then the way in which we view ourselves and the way in which we relate to people is going to shape the rest of our life, and it's going to limit the rest of our life. So I would say that up until just a few years ago, 5-6 years ago, I didn't think of the future. It just didn't occur to me as something to plan for, or something that my current actions were impacting, or something that I was building, whether or not I was thinking about it, right? We're always building the future. Like right now, what I'm doing right now is impacting my future. And I never, just never, didn't occur to me, or I didn't care, or I was just living in the moment, or I was just sort of going with whatever frame of life my relationship and job provided for me. I wasn't actually actively creating the context and mission and purpose of my life. And so I want to point to bringing ourselves and our wants and our desires and the kind of life that we want, that we bring that forward, rather than the circumstances of our life shaping our life. You know, we're just sort of like along for the ride, right? And also, there's deep desires that a lot of us have. And so I want to just sort of throw this out there. What are the, I'm sorry, I forgot to put, what are the light on? Are there any desires that you've made excuses for? Like, I've always wanted to take a painting class, but I don't really have the time, I don't really have the money, my husband or partner like wouldn't really be too excited about it, I'm just not going to do it. It's easier not to push to do that thing that I really want. Whether it's a dance class or an art class, or whether you want to move out of the city into a more rural area, or if you think you're a beach person but you're living in a city, or you're in a relationship where you're like, this relationship's just no, it's not me. It's not, I don't feel like me. I feel like some other smaller version of myself. I feel like I'm making this relationship happen and I'm in it just because I enjoy and like the structure and form of being in a relationship. Or I can't do it on my own, or there's a lot of these thoughts would has us keep our life the way that it is, even though we're not totally psyched about it, we're not totally satisfied with it, as opposed to actually stepping out and testing the waters and thinking about, what is the life that I want to create? What is the life that I really want to have in the future? What do I want it to look like 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, 15 years down the line? What am I actually willing to not give up? Like, I want it to look a certain way in 10 years right now, and I'm unwilling to have it not look like that. Even if it's something small. Like, I'm unwilling to not be a decent guitar player in 10 years from now. You know, it could be something like small and not totally out of the box and something pretty very attainable. But what is it that you are really wanting? What do you think you're made for? How do you think you're designed to move through life? What talents and gifts do you feel that you have that you're setting aside? And a lot of that goes back to how we're putting our past and our future. Because for a lot of us, we had to set aside our natural gifts, our natural talents, our natural sort of unique creative selves. We had to set aside in order to survive in our parents' home, in order to survive in school. And so then it sort of shapes us to think like, I can't really do that thing anyway. It's not meant to be. I'm just meant to be in this marriage where I'm fairly repressed, just like I was repressed in my childhood, but this is the kind of family I know how to be in, this kind of like codependent situation where all my energy is hooked into making the other person happy rather than having my energy hooked into my dreams, my desires, and the ultimate way I want to maximize on this life. And so we are limiting our future by the way in which we were limited as children. So let me know if you have any comments on that. I would love to continue the conversation about how do we shape our future differently than we were, like how do we look at life in the future differently than we were trained to look at it as children. Because most of the people who watch my videos are people who are interested in codependency or recovering codependence, and we have been trained to hand our lives over to another person, to another person's reality, to be on some level just at the effect of how somebody else is operating. And so that training has, can, if we let it, really suck our own potential for our own lives moving forward. And a lot of us are like, well, I'm in this relationship and that's just how it's going to go. And I'm okay with that because I have a roof over my head. I have someone to sleep next to me at nighttime. And, I'm just used to our routine. And I'm scared of how this person will react if I leave. I'm scared of breaking the structure of the situation. I'm scared of being alone. And how do I actually wrap my mind around, how do I become somebody that actually sets out to fulfill my desires if I haven't been trained how to be that kind of person as a child? And so that's where I believe trauma healing comes in. Oh, this is skipping a little bit. It's not really smooth. Hopefully it'll smooth out. So that's where I think trauma healing comes in. And for me, trauma, the way that I define trauma is that something happens and our bodies, our nervous system unconsciously makes a decision about it. And that decision is set, and then we walk through life with that decision. And until we heal our trauma, it's almost like we have our bodies unravel the truths that it made at a young age, responding to that earlier design of life. And unless we heal those traumas, then we are just going to keep creating the same life that we were built to create as children. And the future will not be expansive and imaginative and really a creation of with your own personal love, unique ideas, and your own sort of personal way that you want to move through life. And I have so many clients who are like, man, I've had this job for 15 years and I have job security, I get paid really well, but this job is like, I'm just going through the motions. There's nothing to do with what I would really, if I had a choice, do with my time. And so where did that come from? Let's look at where it came from, that you are actually set up, that it's somewhere okay in your system to do this job for 15 years that you're uncomfortable with, that you don't really want to do. Where did that decision come from? How were you programmed to put yourself into that position? And so it's a process of healing the trauma, and then maybe, one night a week, do that thing that you feel like you're gifted to do. Whether it's, okay, I'm going to take an architecture class, or Saturday mornings, I'm going to take a salsa class, or just, make baby steps into what it is that you want to do, because you make baby steps now, you start creating the future, because everything you're doing now is creating your future. Staying in that relationship, that job that you don't want, not healing your trauma so that you can actually have real human interactions and real intimate relationships. The longer you wait to do those things, the more you are impacting your future and just creating your future to be the same, to live it the same way you've been living so far, with the same sort of limits, repressions, codependent, stronghold habits, and really giving your life to some other structure that you don't fit in. And you don't fit in it. And there's a longing for something that feels like more of a fit. There's a longing to use your brain in a way that you know that you can. Like, you're smart in some specific area, like really super smart. Everybody has a gift, whether it's an artistic gift, or whether it's a cognitive gift, or whether it's like some really good at math, or you're really good at dancing, or you just want to pick up drawing again because you were really good, like sketcher when you were a kid, or like you want to collect comic books and start being in conversation and being in community with other comic book collectors. I study free will, and I study trauma, and there's kind of nothing I like more than just geeking out with other people who like to talk about trauma. I love that. I just love to talk about the things that I enjoy talking about. And so many people have that thing that they like to talk about, that lights them up, that they're just totally passionate about, and they kind of like keep it to themselves. So how do we start now expanding into who we know we are, what we like, what our passions are? How do we start now by saying, I'm unwilling to die without this thing? I'm unwilling to die without painting a mural because I'm a good painter, or whatever it is. What is that thing that you're just unwilling to not do? And start doing it now, like little pieces of it. And even if you don't get agreement from your family or your partner or your job, the point is we want to move forward not needing agreement or permission. Because your future is yours, and you don't need permission to live it or create it the way you want to. Okay, so one little announcement or message. I'm doing a second summit, and so I'm calling it my sequel to my first summit, which was the Trust Yourself Summit earlier this year. And this one is called Trust Yourself Again, Heal Your Trauma, and Be the Real You in Sex, Family, and Money. And it's going to come out this summer. I'll announce it. I'll send it out. And we're going to have 21 more experts from around the world speaking about trauma in all different areas of life. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Thanks for listening, everybody. Happy healing. Bye.